All right, so not only did Netanyahu take out Nasrallah, which was a giant deal in the eyes of the other side, they actually took out all of their successors, or at least that is what they are saying now. This is a huge deal, especially to of course, the leaders of these groups, because you're not only taking out the leader, but you are also taking out anyone who would have filled those shoes. It is definitely bragging rights on their side, but again, there's a lot of craziness going on with many of us citizens here in the United States looking at this like the beginning of World War III. It's hard to say, and it's hard to look at it like it's anything else. Israeli forces have, of course, taken out the would-be successors of late Hezbollah leader Syed Hassan Nasrallah. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Tuesday, without naming them, it says, quote, "We've degraded Hezbollah's capabilities. We took out thousands of the bad guys, including Nasrallah himself and Nasrallah's replacement, and the replacement of the replacement," saying that even levels down the number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 guys, they got all of them. That's a pretty big claim. And again, if it is true, I'm sure that there's going to be parties on the other side that want revenge for sure. Netanyahu did not identify by name the replacements or any of the people that ended up happening to be taken out. But a Hezbollah official told Reuters on Sunday that Israel was obstructing search and rescue efforts in an area where Nasrallah's potential successor, Hashim Safiuddin, was thought to have been when Israel bombed Beirut's southern suburbs on Thursday. Israel took out Nasrallah in a September airstrike on Beirut. Which, speaking of Beirut is going to actually pop up to multiple times tonight, especially about news that we're going to be talking about here on the next show. There is lots of crazy stuff, but tonight we're going to be also mentioning Beirut as well because of this crazy, big, huge explosive that could be going on. Something funky is going on in the neighborhood. Possibly a fantastic Freddy. But before we get into that, make sure to go over and check out EMP Shield. We are independent, completely on our own. If you want to support us at the same time as getting yourself protected against not only an EMP, but also a CME or a Carrington level event from the sun, you'll definitely want to go with the pros. EMP Shield, again, is a device that can ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your car, your truck, motorcycle, boats, your generators, even your ham radio, and of course there's one for your home. So this is a device that will ground it before it can actually fry it and keep you running so you can actually get out to bug out or get home to bug in. This is a device that we actually recommend, and if everybody did have one of these, we wouldn't be in a situation if there was an EMP or if there was a Carrington level event. If everybody had this, there would be no issue. But again, nobody does, so it will be a problem. So if you want to protect yourself, it is the same thing that agencies like DHS and DOD are doing. In fact, the DHS resilience report actually mentioned the EMP Shield. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. Make sure to use the code MARF. Let's bring in my co-internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So this is, they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. The picture that they have here, I guess that this is a perfect headline for that, because there's not much more than the headline says. IDF troops raise an Israeli flag in Maroun El Pas, southern Lebanon. So, Dex, do you want to say why this is significant as far as the picture of it?
On one hand, it's kind of crazy because it's not like they're intentionally they're trying to invade, but they are, in the sense that they're going in to root out what they label as the bad guys that are taking and living in that location. And I get it, like, when the U.S. would roll through Iraq or something like that, I'm sure we would pop a flag up every time we made, progress. But at the same time, it changes, or definitely puts it in the face of the opposition that they are literally raising flags on the land across their border. And that's just, there's a symbolic side to this from the opposite side, just as much as there's a symbolic side to this from Israel's side. So, like you said, a picture's worth 1,000 words, but that's what's going around.
And as far as there are going to be people that support both sides of this, there's a lot on social media. A lot of people have actually picked the anti-Israel side. No matter what side you end up picking, and again, I think that I would say 80% of the people that I see most vocal, a lot of these people at protests, they don't actually know why they're on the side that they're on. They just kind of picked whatever they thought was kind of the majority. Now, there are things wrong with all of these parties. In my opinion, I think there's a big problem with the world and all of its leadership right now. And I think that many of these countries, it's hard to make this debate, well, I'm behind this or I'm behind this, when your core belief is that almost every case there is some sort of corruption going on. And it's like I talked about last night, that the world is basically running on this thing like you're always picking the lesser of two evils. And that's really how we've been running our world. And that's how our society is. It's like it's how our culture is. It's how our world works. So it's really sad just to see how much everybody is torn up, everybody is divided, everybody is completely not seeing eye to eye on anything. But one thing that they are seeing eye to eye on is World War III. A new study says that 80% of Americans fear World War III is imminent. As global conflict continues to ignite, a startling new survey reveals that 80% of Americans are worried about the possibility of World War III. The study conducted by Talker Research points a sobering picture of a nation on edge as international tensions and an uncertain year looms. The survey, which polled 1,000 Americans across party lines, found that concern about a potential global conflict transcends political affiliations. Republicans and third-party voters expressed the highest levels of anxiety, with 84% and 83% respectively, fearing an impending world war, while slightly lower, Democratic concern remains significant, with 74% sharing similar worries. Women expressed markedly higher levels of concern than men, which I think is actually pretty interesting to me, that women actually expressed higher levels of concern about it than men. I would think if you're a guy right now, especially youth, that you would be worried about it, because everyone has been talking about a draft and adding everything into it. So a striking 85% of women feared that the outbreak of a new global conflict, compared to 71% of men. Now, if you're somebody that believes that women have better intuition, then you might not want to believe that right now, because it seems like most women are thinking the same thing I am, that World War III is right on our doorstep. The specter of war feels particularly close to home for many Americans, with ongoing conflicts driving much of the concern. Israel-Hamas conflict emerges as the primary worry for 55% of the respondents. And of course, Russia-Ukraine, which troubled only 28% of those surveyed. So I think most people see, Ukraine versus Russia kind of in a different light. A lot of people right now, the sentiment that I hear time and time again, is they think it's a money pit and that it's something that we don't even belong in. So you could see how, if that's their thought on it, how they wouldn't exactly be worried about it. But Russia and Ukraine is important. That also shows you that most people do not believe that Russia is actually trying to take all of NATO and take over the world. Most people believe that they are just taking Ukraine and that it's between them. At least you can see that or assume that from these results. And then map shows Russia-tied, quote, floating bomb ship anchored off of NATO allies' shore. So this is a big deal. Now, mind you, they are actually comparing this. Dex, what did they say this was? They said that it was 20 times bigger than the Beirut explosion if this went off. Seven times
more than what was in the Beirut storage facility. That's how much of that exact same component is in this floating ship.
And by the way, going back to that, everybody saw that on the news. It went around the world twice for 2 days straight. All you saw was this explosion. If you don't know about the Beirut explosion, go look up videos. Of course, everybody had their theories back then. But it is kind of ironic that right now Israel is actually in Lebanon. They're talking about Beirut right now, and it's like, well, a lot of people didn't say back then, what if that was some sort of thing related to other countries, and maybe that was this. They ended up saying it was ammonium nitrate. They did say that explosion was ammonium nitrate that was stored for fireworks or something. Is that what the official story was? Do you remember with the Beirut explosion?
Well, I don't think it was necessarily fireworks, but it was ammonium nitrate, and it was a lot of it.
Yeah, so now you have this floating bomb, as they call it, and what are they doing with it? So, Dex, why does this matter, and why, again, is this a potential Fantastic Freddy?
Well, look, we've been behind the scenes. We've been sort of following this since August. It left a Russian port. It was full of just all of this. They sort of said, "Oh, don't worry, this is just normal. We normally load a ship up with 20,000 tons of ammonium nitrate." But then it had this mysterious problem where they said, "Oh, we're having trouble and we need to dock." And that's what we've been following. It's just never docked anywhere because nobody wants it. Well, now it appears to be coming in and being at least moored up near the UK. So it went, I think the Norwegian ports turned it away. Some other ports had turned it away. It was supposed to be going to Las Palmas in the Atlantic Ocean, but nonetheless, it's been hanging out in the seas up there in the north near in Northern Europe, going back and forth, trying to find a place to port because they claim they're having technical difficulties and they need some repairs. Well, now it has come down to, I guess there's a company that owns part of it or has some of the insurance related to it in the United Kingdom. It is now in the English Channel and it is off the coastline of Essex and near the UK. Now, that was a scary thought to think that something this powerful, this big, is sitting there and potentially going to maybe even dock in the UK. And would that be a ripe opportunity for something bad to happen, whether it's sabotage or setup?
And if you don't know what Fantastic Freddy is, essentially we've had several of them over the years, and it basically, well, what if it is a flagship? It is representing that, and then of course that same side, or say something happens, a 3-letter agency blows it up, and then of course blames it on something else. That is the worry that people have, of course, about anything like this. We're ripe for one. If you don't know the history of course, World War I, World War II, even the civil conflict has a questionable one. And then, of course, the Gulf of Tonkin. There's events like this throughout history that have started conflicts, and you find out 50, 60, 70 years later that it may have been something different than what they said. So we're not saying it's that, but again, keep your head on a swivel because there is a lot of craziness going on right now. Hopefully everybody stays safe, and make sure to join us for the next show. In fact, if you want to join us, just click up in the corner right now. Join us over on Marfoogle TV. We'll see you in just a minute. We're going to cover the rest of the news in just a few.